Hi, I'm Vicky Ann, and I'm the director and founder of Creative Recruiters. Welcome to the Creative Studio Insider podcast. My special guest this week is Frankie Fung. Frankie is the studio manager and the design and content production manager at Haynes Brands. Thanks so much for joining me today, Frankie.
No, thanks for having me. Really honoured to be asked.
Yeah, so let me start by asking you to give us a brief history of your background and your journey on the way to Haynes.
I guess I originally started as a graphic designer slash photographer. So I've always studied graphic design and so forth. And I've worked for different places such as agencies, ranging from agencies right through to in-house companies such as Crown, Melbourne Aquarium, agencies such as Struck and Spink, and I've done a short stint at Caramel Creative and so forth. And now, I guess 4 years or a little bit over 4 years ago, I joined Haynes as their studio traffic manager, and then I guess came up the rank from there. Yeah.
I remember when we met, I think it's about 10 years ago now, and you were at Crown Casino then. And one of the things that I remember is that the male designers had to wear ties. Do you remember that?
Yeah, I kind of, in some way, I miss those days. Like, we all had to wear a full suit with ties, and it was a kind of like at the beginning, you do feel a little bit odd being a designer wearing that, but after a while, you get used to it, and I actually quite miss those days. Like, you really learn to appreciate a really good suit after a while.
Absolutely. I know from a recruitment perspective, though, we really struggled sometimes. We'd find the designer for you guys, and then we'd sort of whisper to the side, oh, by the way, you have to wear a jacket and tie, and it would just be, what?
Yeah. Now it's a complete opposite. Now I wear t-shirts and hoodies to work every day, and sometimes track pants, and so it's a bit extreme, really.
Exactly. You've got a really big role at Haynes, and as you said, you started as the studio traffic manager, and then you moved into studio manager, and it looks like you've got a dual role now. Tell us a bit about that.
Yeah, so recently I got, I guess, promoted to be their design and content production manager, and we've had a bit of a restructure internally, and now I both manage the graphic design team as well as the photography team. So we actually have an in-house photography studio that manages all our content that we produce for all our websites. The only website we don't kind of create content for is Sheridan and Bras and Things, but pretty much it's a fairly small, tight-knit team, and we pretty much manage or create content for about, I would say, probably 80% of the, or for all the brands that we have, except for two of the main ones.
And so what is the makeup of your team? It sounds like it needs to be huge to produce that amount of work, but what is the makeup? What are the typical job titles within your team?
So my direct report, I have, I'm very, very lucky. I have two very talented individuals. One is a graphic design lead. She looks after 4 graphic designers underneath her. So they manage all the graphics and EDMs and web banners, anything to do with graphic related. So they look after all that. And then I have a content assistant or producer, and she manages all our photographers, stylists, model bookings and all that. So it is like you said, there's 2 streams to it, and I guess I'm like the bridge between the two, that combines it all. Just Melbourne alone, we're a small knit team, but we produce a lot of work. And then on top of that, we also have another team who's based in Shanghai, which I don't manage directly, but I liaise with quite closely. And they have a in-house of about 4 to 5 designers, and they predominantly do a lot of finished art and packaging and labeling and care labels and stuff. So yeah, we work kind of internationally as well as interstate, and we also have, for example, Burley, who's one of our brand. They're predominantly based in Sydney, but all their work actually comes down to Melbourne for us to do. So our team carries a lot of weight for what the size they are.
And so what does the day-to-day look like for you, Frankie, in your studio?
Generally, we start our day at about 8:30. So usually first thing I do is really just check my emails, check all my notification on Basecamp, because that's where the software we use to manage all our projects, anything that I might need to attend to. My day can really be varies from back-to-back meetings or to a day that really just me scheduling jobs and allocating jobs to our designers. Normally by about 9:30, I'll start getting a lot of notifications and emails and Slack messages from my team, just so that they can ask questions about projects and stuff. And yeah, like I could be after that, like I try to answer as much as I can. After that, I could be going into a meeting that ranges from, like a range showing for the next season, right through to troubleshooting on how a job goes to a printer, because they may, because also we have a print broker, so we don't actually always send to the same printer, and there's a lot of technical stuff. Or even working with our dev team who manages all our, e-coms and content and so forth. So it does vary a little bit. I'm probably the most unhealthiest person in the company. So I never really have lunch on time. And I'm often having, lunch at my desk. So usually I'll probably go on a lunch break at about, 1:30, maybe 2, and just give myself a bit of a break. But usually, even though I say that, I'm in front of my computer anyway, just replying messages. And in the rest of the afternoon, yeah, again, it can actually vary from meetings or budgeting for photos, shoots and stuff like that. I look after a lot of that. And sometime, it depends on time of the year, I might be forward planning for the next year and so forth. And then also one of the probably key element that I probably look at a lot is what's coming down the pipeline for us. So we have our plans for, 6 to 12 months ahead, what kind of projects coming down the pipeline, and looking at scheduling resources for that. We schedule our resources pretty far ahead. I don't know what other studios do, but we sometimes can schedule our designers with jobs almost about 1 to 2 months ahead. So we kind of block out their diary pretty full. Obviously, we have a lot of brands to manage and a lot of brands work to do, and often that gets a lot of shuffling. It's like playing Tetris. If anyone has ever used Streamtime before, they'll understand what I mean. It's lots of blocks of time that I have to actually drag and drop and move things around, and then also look at their skill sets and also people's when they're away on holidays and stuff like that, just scheduling stuff. So a lot of shuffling around of jobs. I would say probably 80% of my days would be involved in scheduling jobs and shuffling jobs around, and probably 20% of my day would be in meetings. And then even though that's probably equals to 100%, I would say after hours is usually when I actually start replying to emails and messages. That's the only time I got quietly to type away my messages.
And when we spoke a few months ago, I was really impressed with the way that Haynes supported you and your team during the initial lockdown phases. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, no, we've been pretty lucky in the respect that none of us were really stood down during that period. And Haynes really in my opinion, Haynes really supported us in, keeping us, going. And we've been really lucky as well at the business structured in a way that we weren't, we're different to most businesses. We're not fully retail or fully wholesale. So we're actually kind of split in between. And also we have an online division. So when we had to shut down our stores, a lot of our work or products got pushed onto online. So online became quite a heavyweight, really, to keep the business going. And then also we had wholesale, which predominantly were like Coles and Woolworth and a lot of grocery stores that we're pretty lucky that our product is in there. And they were open through that pandemic. So that kind of really helped support us to keep us going. And yeah, we all kind of, I guess, the business itself was very open and communicated very clearly to us what needed to be done to get us through this period. And I think then that gave people a lot of confidence in the business, and actually, feeling like, I personally definitely felt that, if the business is looking after us, then, I want to do everything I can for the business and to support them and put in 110%, yeah.
What were the challenges going from, being in-house at your workplace to getting everybody set up from home?
We were, even though we are in-house, when I first joined Haynes 4 years ago, we actually have always had it in the back of our mind to set up the studio to be quite mobile and flexible, just because of the fact that we do have offices around, interstate, as well as even in Melbourne, we actually have two offices, so that I float in between. So with a lot of things that I've set up and the programs and softwares we chose to use, it needed to give me that flexibility to work remotely anyway. But when leading up to it, we definitely had a bit of foresight to see it coming, and a lot within the company, we were all pretty much ready to go. We had action plan in place, and by early January or mid-January, we pretty much had all that solid lockdown. We knew what we needed to do if we did need to work from home. And when the day came, within 24 hours, all of us just packed up our stuff and went home. And even, I know it sounds really minor, but even just fundamentally, like all of us were originally on laptops and stuff. So we're already set up to be quite mobile. The way the culture is internally, like even when we go to meetings, everyone carries laptops. So we're all set up quite mobile anyway. And we have a lot of hot desks around the office, and you don't have to sit in the same spot all the time. And so, yeah, the only real challenge would have been that would be just internet connection. I'm sure most studios would experience that. Being a graphic design studio, we obviously use a lot of large files and so forth, and having to send a lot of people home and not knowing what their internet connection is like, that definitely present a bit of challenge, and downloading, uploading, and all that. But we definitely worked around that, and after a couple of days, we kind of got into a routine, and we knew what we needed to do, and the team kind of knew, if they're doing X amount of work tomorrow, overnight they had to download everything to make sure they have it ready to go first thing in the morning. Just little tricks like that, we learn to adapt to it.
I've spoken with many creative services managers over the last 8 months, and in those early months, they turned into IT managers, and they never realised they even had the skill.
Yeah, definitely. I became a bit of a pseudo IT support for a lot of people, and a lot of screen sharing and a lot of how to do. And credit to our IT department themselves too. It's not, they don't just support us; they support the whole company across the board, not just within Melbourne, but also across Sydney and Adelaide and all our stores as well. Like they did a phenomenal job, and they, even after the first lockdown, we actually went through a period of upgrading a lot of people's computers, just because to be able to handle the work, to working remotely from home and so forth. So yeah, they did an incredible job.
And so what tools or software did you implement that, you would really recommend, the ones that have really worked for you guys?
We, like I said, we've always set up to be working remotely. So from the very start, we use software like Basecamp and Streamtime, who, like it's our bread and breakfast. Like we use that day in, day out. Like that's just normal for us. And we've always used Slack between our e-coms department and us. But surprisingly, I think over the last couple of months, Slack has really played a big part in the creative sense. We've discovered new things on it, which we've never knew, such as, for example, just giving feedback on design. We only discovered a few months ago that Slack, you can actually draw on the screen as you're talking to the person. So that really kind of fast-tracked a lot of the feedback that our creative leads had to give to our designers. Instead of typing everything out, they can actually do a visual on screen for them. That was a big help. I personally use Notion a lot, which I discovered that probably 6 months ago. And that's been actually more than that, probably a year ago, I discovered that software. And that's been a real game changer for me, just because Notion allows you to, customize how you want things done, and a lot of customization involved in that, and just really scheduling and also setting up to-do lists or libraries of information, and file sharing and all that. Like it's just, it was a real big game changer for me.
And I don't want to dwell on this too much, because we are fortunately coming out the other side of our 8 months in lockdown. But in what ways did you play an integral role in managing the mental health of your team during that time?
I think it's with any businesses, not just technically, not just creative studio. I think with any businesses, working from home for a long period of time is very strenuous on anyone. I mean, I definitely felt it myself, especially living on my own in an apartment, and you're not allowed to visit friends and stuff. But I think, as a manager, like to care about your team, definitely you needed to increase that level of touch points with your team. I think at the beginning, just getting everyone settled and making sure they're all doing okay, it was almost like as if we had to overdo the check-ins. And when I say that, you need to kind of go, I felt that you needed to go above and beyond than just a messaging on Slack or text message. Or it was almost like a phone call every day or a video chat every day, just to, and not just in a group. I always made sure I did an individual as well, just so that gives them that privacy to, if they felt comfortable, they can actually, vent as well as, to you. And also you just really kind of on that personal level as well, not just checking for work, but just to kind of really ask the question sometime to the individual, like, hey, you okay? How are you doing today? How are you feeling? Especially with our team, a lot of them are quite young as well. And creative people, we're people. So we like to be in a group environment, and having that extended period of time being away from friends that and I think as not just friends, but I think in the creative industry too, you work in that intense environment for a long period of time,
Mm.
everyone else in the studio becomes like a family. And, and then having that split up and not being able to be together for that extended period of time, it's hard on anyone. Even for me, I was like, it felt like as if I was losing my children. I didn't even get to see them in some way.
They're so lucky to have you. And of course, it's also the blurred boundaries, isn't there, when you're working from home of, when do you turn off and how do you stop yourself sneaking back into the room just to have a look at that last email?
Oh, definitely. I found it really hard. I think anyone that knows me for a long period of time knows how much of a workaholic I am. And I definitely don't switch off at 5. I often work till midnight and I'm on there on the email replying. And I think the first couple of months, I think towards the end of it, I felt really burnt out, because I just didn't know. I was having dinner in front of my computer because I just wanted to keep going. And I just felt like, I need to prepare for the next day and stay on top of things. But after a while, I think, you do need to switch off and find something that, mentally that gets you away from the computer. And I was really lucky that during that first period of lockdown, my brother actually had a little baby. So that kind of gave me an excuse once we came out of that lockdown to get away and actually go and spend time with my nephew and have dinner with him. So that was actually a big relief and learning to do that. And I'm sure my boss will actually laugh about this when she hears me say that, that I've learned to get away from the computer.
It is really hard, though. I know one of our team members literally locks the computer in the cupboard at the end of the day so that it's just too difficult. What does the new normal inside a creative studio look like, do you think, moving forward?
Oh, that is a bit of an unknown. We're still kind of planning that out at the moment. But as a company, I guess overall, we're still kind of waiting for the word from the government on, I guess, technically when we can go back.
Sure.
And I think it's a bit of a unknown for everyone, really. We just don't know when we're going to go back and what the numbers are going to be like and how long this is going to, go for. But all I know is that at the stage that, Haynes is really kind of, I guess, been really cautious about it, and they want to make sure that we're all safe, and we'll, probably continue to work from home as long as we can, and slowly transition back. I mean, based on what's been happening in our Sydney office, we have actually split the company into 50-50. And so we're actually stagnating our staff into our office space. So some staff will go in on Monday, Tuesday, and other staff will go in Thursday, Friday. And then you'll have a cleaning day in between, just so that we can minimize any outbreaks if it does happen.
Sure.
But, there's a lot of those things that they're still kind of putting in place at the moment. There's still a lot of unknown, to be honest.
Yeah. And so I guess, one of my final questions for you, Frankie, is to ask you, what does success look like for you in the role of the head of a creative studio?
In this kind of, I guess, in this environment, or is it like an overall?
An overall. Yeah.
It sounds really corny, but I guess, to lead a really high achieving team, and when I say that, not just in the work sense, but also, having a team that really bonds with each other and really look after each other. That would be my ultimate goal. And not that, they're actually quite a tight-knit group, actually. they're probably, and I always joke about it, they're like my children, and they kind of are. And they're very, very close. All the team members are very close to each other, and I think it's just more having a team that not only love being with each other, like as in working with each other, but actually love what they do. And I think that's the key for them to create good work. And like they say, you don't actually do good work unless you love what you do. And just creating that environment for them that they feel safe and that they feel like they can actually be themselves and be able to explore and flourish like they do now. Yeah, that would be my and continue to do that, and that would be my ultimate, to give them that support and the freedom to do what they need to do.
I know people that have worked for you, Frankie, who absolutely adore you, for all of the reasons that you just spoke about. Your passion for creating those teams that are, truly collaborative, where some really strong friendships are developed, is an absolute credit to you. And
thank you.
I really, really appreciate your time today. Thank you so much. And
thanks for having me.
I look forward to seeing you again soon.
Thank you.
Take care. Bye, Frankie.
Bye.